Hey guys, hope you're having a good week. Today I wanted to jump on and talk to you guys about what causes GBS. So I get a lot of messages with people sharing their stories of kind of what triggered their GBS and people asking me what triggered mine. And I know that that's always a common question, so I'm going to be talking about that as well. So what causes GBS? Well, the quick answer is we don't really know. But what we do know is that GBS is an autoimmune disorder, meaning that it is brought on by an autoimmune response. So something happens and your immune system reacts the way that it does, triggering GBS. So a better question probably is what known triggers have brought on GBS? So doctors will usually say that something will happen, and 2 to 4 weeks later is when GBS, the symptoms of GBS will start. So not always, in a lot of cases that it's just impossible to find anything that happened and it's just kind of a question mark. But for some, it's quite obvious. They can go back in time and they can think back to 2 to 3 weeks earlier, and they can think of a precise moment that happened or an event that happened that could have triggered GBS. So really anything that triggers an autoimmune response could technically trigger GBS. Obviously that doesn't happen all the time. We've got healthy people that their immune systems react, every day to external forces, and we go on to fight it off and are healthy. But obviously, in our bodies, people that have had GBS, our bodies work differently. So the most common trigger of GBS is some sort of infection. So a stomach flu, a stomach bacteria causing diarrhea, also chest infections or respiratory infections, as well as the Campylobacter bacteria. So those three are very common triggers for GBS. And that one bacteria that I just mentioned that I won't butcher again is usually found in undercooked chicken. And that bacteria is actually the number one cause of GBS. So in about 30% of cases of GBS, they are able to pinpoint it back to the bacteria that somebody would have eaten 2 to 3 to 4 weeks earlier. Other common triggers are surgery, pregnancy, giving birth, some other viruses like the Epstein-Barr virus and Zika virus, as well as a lot of vaccines. So the flu shot, the HPV vaccine, as well as the H1N1 vaccine, and some other ones that I've heard as well. So yes, vaccines can trigger GBS. And I know the world that we live in and the anti-vaxxers and all that, I'm not going to get into that, but it is a possibility, and it is written in the fine print on some of those vaccines. So when you're reading those, you might just see that GBS can be brought on by that. I'm not saying that you should avoid vaccines. I'm not saying that you should avoid anything, because like I said, anything can potentially trigger an autoimmune response. You can't always avoid the flu or avoid pregnancy or avoid surgery or whatever. So it's just the luck of the draw, I guess. So what brought on my case of GBS? Well, 2 to 4 weeks before I had GBS, I had given birth. And GBS is known to be brought on by both pregnancy and by giving birth, as well as surgery. And I had a C-section. So they can't exactly pinpoint which one brought it on. Maybe it was all three. We'll never know. But my doctor's best estimated guess is that it was brought on by that whole situation. I've met a lot of women that their GBS was brought on by pregnancy. So they got it maybe 24, 26, 28 weeks in, and then had to go through GBS while pregnant. And then I've met other women whose GBS was brought on after giving birth or after a C-section. So I'm not the first person that's happened to by far, which is devastating because, who wants to be going through GBS when you're supposed to be at home snuggling your newborn baby? But that's how life goes. Another common trigger that I hear a lot within the GBS community is stress. So I talk to a lot of people that say that 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 weeks before, they were severely stressed. They had a stressful event in their life, or they were super stressed at work or something. For me, I did have a very minor reoccurrence of GBS last year, and I 100% believe that it was brought on by stress. I was overworked. I was extremely stressed and overwhelmed in my life. And then I was pushing myself as well, because that's how I am. And my stress, and then paired with going for a 10-kilometer run that I pushed myself to do, and I crashed, and I was re-diagnosed with a mild case of GBS. So another common question that I get is, can I get GBS, or can we get GBS again? And yes, we can, obviously, because I actually did get a mild case. So it's about 5% of people that have had GBS will have a second occurrence. I've talked to a lot of people that have had 2 or 3, so it's kind of scary. But I mean, you can't stop living your life. There's certain things. Do I get the flu shot? No, I do not get the flu shot for myself. That is a personal choice. I mean, do I recommend other people getting it? People that haven't had GBS for different reasons? Yes. There's just certain things that I still will do. Like, I still travel to Mexico and risk getting the Zika virus. I've had a lot of people ask me if I would have more children. And for a very long time, it was absolutely not. I wouldn't even consider that. I wouldn't even put myself in that situation again. And what I went through and how traumatizing it was, and the time that I lost out with my daughter, I just wouldn't even take the risk. But after a while, when my daughter was about 2, I did start thinking about it a little bit more. I didn't want my daughter to be an only child. And so I was kind of toying around the idea. Of course, around that time is also the time that my marriage fell apart and I got divorced. After that, I met my fiance, who has 2 of his own children. So we're good with 3. So no, I will not be having more children. I wouldn't take that risk to get pregnant and go through GBS again if that were to happen. I'm very happy with 3. Now, if Jordan didn't have any of his own children and he wanted to have one, yes, I would, of course, consider that. And I mean, obviously what I went through and what I have with my daughter, it was worth it. So thank you guys so much for listening today, and I hope that the video was beneficial for you. Do me a favor, and if you yourself or your family member was diagnosed with GBS, I would love if you would comment below what triggered it for you. I'm kind of a nerd, and that kind of stuff just really interests me. Sometimes I've heard like some crazy off the chart thing that is just like so mind blowing that's what caused it. A lot of cases, like I've said before, you can't pinpoint it, but I would love to know. And yeah, I will be back on next week. Talk to you guys later.